Admiral Kethavar stood on the bridge of his warship, looking out at the stars through the large viewing window. The Kepler 442 sector stretched before him, quiet and peaceful as it had been for the past 20 years. His 3 fingers drummed, slowly against the metal railing as he watched the distant lights of merchant ships moving between the colonies. "Another boring patrol," muttered his second-in-command, Commander Zelnok, as he walked up beside the Admiral. "High Command keeps us out here watching empty space while the real action happens in the core worlds." Kethavar's pale blue skin showed the faint patterns that meant he was thinking deeply. His large black eyes never left the star field ahead. "Peace is not boring, Commander. It means we are doing our job well." The Zephyrian Empire had controlled this sector for over 50 years. The local species had long ago given up fighting, and now served the Empire faithfully. Pirates sometimes caused trouble, but nothing that a few patrol ships could not handle. The 3 cruisers under Kethavar's command were more than enough to keep order. Far beyond the edge of Zephyrian sensors, the human ship USS Defiance moved silently through space. Captain Jake Murphy sat in his command chair, reading reports on his tablet. The ship had been traveling for 6 months, mapping unknown regions and looking for signs of intelligent life. They had found plenty of empty worlds, a few primitive species, but nothing like what Earth Command was hoping for. "Captain," called Chief Engineer Lisa Carter from her station, "the new quantum engines are running perfectly. We're making better time than expected." Murphy nodded and looked around his bridge. The crew of 200 had volunteered for this long mission into the unknown. They were scientists, soldiers, and explorers all mixed together. The ship itself was built for this kind of work, with heavy armor, powerful weapons, and the most advanced technology Earth could build. "Any word from home?" asked Tactical Officer Ryan Blake. "Nothing new," Murphy replied. "Earth is still building more ships like ours. We're the first, but not the last." Science Officer Amanda Foster looked up from her instruments. "Captain, I'm picking up some interesting energy readings from the next system. Could be natural, but the patterns look artificial." Murphy leaned forward. This was what they had been looking for. "How far?" 3 days at current speed," Foster said. "The energy is definitely not natural. Someone built whatever is making those signals." Back in the Zephyrian fleet, a young sensor operator named Tekmar was staring at his screen with confusion. He had been watching the same readings for an hour, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. "Sir," he called to Commander Zelnok, "I have something strange on the edge sensors." Zelnok walked over and looked at the display. The readings showed an energy pattern unlike anything in their databases. "Probably just stellar radiation," he said without much interest. "The equipment is old. Have maintenance check it tomorrow." "But sir, the pattern is moving. Stellar radiation doesn't move. Like this. Everything moves in space, operator. Stars, gas clouds, asteroids. Mark it in the log and move on." Tekmar wanted to argue, but he knew better than to question a superior officer. He made the required log entry and went back to his regular duties. Still, something about those readings bothered him. In 20 years of service, he had never seen energy patterns quite like these. Captain Murphy stood in his quarters, looking at the mission orders that had arrived just before they left Earth. The official mission was exploration and first contact, protocols. But the sealed orders told a different story. Earth's government wanted to know about any military forces they might encounter. Humanity was expanding into the galaxy, and they needed to know what was out there. "Bridge to Captain," came Foster's voice over the communication system. "Go ahead," Murphy replied. "We're getting much clearer readings now. There are definitely artificial structures in the next system. Multiple ships, orbital stations, and what looks like mining operations." Murphy felt his heart rate increase. After months of empty space, they had finally found signs of advanced civilization. "Any indication they've detected us?" "Negative, sir. We're still too far out, and our stealth systems are working perfectly." "Good. Maintain course and keep monitoring. I want to know everything about them before we make contact." The USS Defiance continued toward the Zephyrian mining colony, its crew preparing for humanity's first contact with an alien civilization. The ship's weapons were powered down, but ready. The diplomatic team reviewed their protocols. The science team prepared their instruments to learn everything they could about these new aliens. Admiral Kethvar finished his evening meal and prepared for sleep. Tomorrow would be another quiet day of routine patrols. The Kepler 442 sector was the most peaceful in the Empire, and he expected it to stay that way. His long military career had been spent in this quiet region, watching over mining colonies and trade routes. He had no idea that everything was about to change. The two fleets moved toward each other through the darkness of space, neither knowing the other existed. The Zephyrians believed their sector was completely secure, protected by the might of the Empire and the fear it inspired in potential enemies. The humans approached with careful hope, ready to make peaceful contact with their first alien neighbors. Within 3 days, both sides would learn that the galaxy was much more dangerous and much more interesting than either had imagined. The quiet sector was about to become the center of a conflict that would shake the foundations of the Zephyrian Empire and announce humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. The USS Defiance pressed forward through the night, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species toward an uncertain future. The USS Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the mining system. Captain Murphy watched the main screen as stars shifted back into normal patterns. After 6 months of empty space, seeing actual alien structures felt like a dream. "Contact," announced Science Officer Amanda Foster. "I'm reading 12 ships, various sizes. 3 appear to be warships, the rest are cargo and mining vessels. There's also a large space station orbiting the 4th planet." Murphy leaned forward in his command chair. "Any signs they've detected us?" "Not yet, sir. We're still pretty far out." Lieutenant Commander Sam Watson worked frantically at his communication station. The universal translator was trying to make sense of radio signals coming from the alien ships. Strange sounds filled his headphones, nothing like any human language he had ever heard. "Captain, I'm picking up their communications," Watson reported. "The computer is working on translation, but it's going to take time. Their language structure is completely different from anything in our databases." "Keep working on it," Murphy said. "Foster, start long-range scans. I want to know everything about these ships and their technology." The Defiance began its approach, moving slowly toward the alien fleet. Murphy had read every first contact protocol Earth had developed, but facing the real thing felt completely different. These were actual aliens, not theories in a training manual. On the bridge of the Zephyrian cruiser Talon's Edge, alarm signals suddenly filled the air. Sensor operator Tekmar jumped from his seat as his instruments lit up with warnings. "Contact," he shouted. "Unknown vessel approaching from Sector 7. Commander Zelnok rushed to the sensor station. "What do you mean, unknown? Nothing enters this system without our permission." "Sir, it's definitely artificial. Large ship, unknown design. It just appeared out of nowhere." Admiral Kethvar arrived on the bridge within minutes. His calm expression changed to concern as he studied the sensor data. In 20 years of service in this sector, nothing like this had ever happened. "Send the standard challenge," he ordered. "All languages." The communication went out across multiple frequencies. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Zephyrian Empire space without permission. Identify yourself immediately, or you will be considered hostile." On the Defiance, Watson's equipment detected the incoming transmission. The universal translator worked desperately to decode the alien words. After several minutes, a rough translation appeared on his screen. "Captain, they're challenging us," Watson reported. "They want us to identify ourselves. The translation is rough, but they're definitely not happy we're here." Murphy had hoped for a more friendly greeting, but this was still better than being shot at. "Open a channel. Let's try to talk to them." Watson activated the transmitter. Murphy spoke slowly and clearly. "This is Captain Jake Murphy of the Earthship USS Defiance. We come in peace, seeking friendly contact with your people." The message went out, but the universal translator struggled to convert Murphy's words into the alien language. What the Zephyrians received was a jumbled mess of sounds that made very little sense. Admiral Kethvar listened to the strange transmission with growing confusion. "What language is that? It's not in any of our databases." "Unknown, sir," replied the communications officer. The sounds don't match any known species in this region. Sir, interrupted Tekmar from his sensor station. The unknown ship is scanning us. Deep-level scans of our hull, weapons, and engines. This changed everything for Kethvar. In Zephyrian military doctrine, scanning another ship's weapons was an act of preparation for battle. Battle stations, he ordered immediately. All ships prepare for combat. Warning lights flashed throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Gun ports opened and shields powered up. The 3 cruisers moved into attack formation while the mining ships retreated to safe distance. On the Defiance, Tactical Officer Ryan Blake watched his instruments with growing alarm. Captain, they're powering weapons and moving into attack positions. Murphy felt his stomach drop. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. Watson, keep trying to communicate. Tell them we don't want to fight. I'm trying, sir, but the translator is having problems. I don't think they're understanding us. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, I'm detecting energy buildups on those alien ships. They're about to open fire. Murphy had seconds to make a decision that could affect the future of both species. Raise shields, but do not power weapons. Maybe if we show we're defensive only, they'll hold their fire. It was too late. Admiral Kethvar had interpreted the human ship's continued scanning as hostile intent. Fire, he commanded. 3 Zephyrian cruisers opened fire simultaneously. Bright blue plasma bolts streaked across space toward the USS Defiance. The human crew watched in shock as the alien weapons approached their ship. Incoming fire, Blake shouted. Impact in 5 seconds. Carter's experimental adaptive shields had never been tested in real combat. As the plasma bolts struck the Defiance, the shields analyzed the energy patterns and began adjusting their frequencies to match. The first few hits caused the ship to shake, but each subsequent impact had less effect. Shields are adapting, Carter reported excitedly. The computer is learning their weapon signatures and adjusting our defenses. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. His ships were firing full power, but the unknown vessel's shields were somehow getting stronger, not weaker. What kind of technology is that? He muttered. Captain Murphy knew they couldn't just sit there and take fire, even if their shields were holding. Blake, return fire. Conventional missiles only. I don't want to escalate this more than necessary. The Defiance launched a spread of 6 missiles toward the nearest Zephyrian cruiser. The aliens had never encountered kinetic weapons before. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles traveling at incredible speed. The missiles struck the Zephyrian ship with devastating effect. Explosions rippled across the hull as the kinetic energy tore through armor, plating. The cruiser's shields flickered and failed as internal systems overloaded. Direct hit on the lead cruiser, Blake reported. Their shields are down and they're showing multiple hull breaches. Admiral Kethvar felt fear for the first time in years. The unknown ship had weapons that could penetrate Zephyrian defenses like they were made of paper. Worse, their own most powerful weapons seemed useless against the alien vessel. Ceasefire, he ordered reluctantly. All ships, maintain position but do not engage. The space battle that had begun so suddenly came to an abrupt halt. Both fleets hung in space, weapons ready but not firing. The silence felt heavy with tension and possibility. Captain Murphy wiped sweat from his forehead. Status report. Shields, at 80% and still adapting, Carter reported. No hull damage. The alien ships have stopped firing, Blake added, but they're still in attack formation. Murphy looked at the alien fleet on his main screen. Somewhere over there were beings trying to make the same decisions he was making. They were probably just as confused and scared as his own crew. Watson, keep trying to establish communication. We need to talk to them before someone else gets hurt. The first meeting between humans and aliens had not gone as anyone planned. Both sides now knew they faced something completely unexpected. The question was whether they could find a way to understand each other before fear and misunderstanding led to something much worse. In the space between the two fleets, the future of galactic civilization hung in the balance. The emergency meeting room at Earth Command was filled with worried voices. Admiral Patricia Hayes sat at the head of the long table, reading Captain Murphy's report for the third time. Around her, the best military minds on Earth tried to make sense of what had happened in the Kepler 442 sector. "So we're not alone in the galaxy," said General Robert Clark, head of Colonial Defense, "and our first neighbors tried to kill us." Dr. Kevin Torres, the government's top expert on alien life, looked up from his tablet. "The important thing is that Captain Murphy's crew survived. Their adaptive shield technology worked better than we hoped." "That's not the point," Admiral Hayes said firmly. "The point is that there's an entire alien empire out there, and they consider us enemies. We need to know how big they are and what kind of threat they represent." The room fell quiet. As everyone thought about the implications, Earth had been preparing for this moment for decades, but facing the reality felt much different than planning for possibilities. "What about their technology?" asked Colonel Lisa Morgan from the Strategic Planning Division. "Murphy's report says, their energy weapons were powerful but predictable. Their shields couldn't stop our missiles." Dr. Torres nodded. "It seems they've specialized in energy-based warfare while we developed kinetic weapons. Neither side was prepared for the other's approach. That gives us an advantage," General Clark said, "but only if we act quickly. Once they understand our weapons, they'll adapt." Admiral Hayes stood up and walked to the large star map on the wall. The Kepler 442 sector looked very small compared to the vast unknown regions beyond it. "How many ships do we have ready for deep space operations?" 12 like the Defiance," Colonel Morgan replied. "Another 20 in various stages of construction. But if this alien empire is as large as we think, that's not nearly enough." Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace on the Zephyrian homeworld, Emperor Zarthul was having his own crisis meeting. The throne room's crystal walls reflected his anger as he paced back and forth. His advisors kept their distance, knowing how dangerous the Emperor could be when upset. "Explain to me," Zarthul said in a voice that could freeze water, "how an unknown ship appeared in our territory and defeated 3 of our cruisers." Admiral Kethavar stood at attention, still wearing his uniform from the battle. "Your Majesty, their technology is unlike anything we have encountered. Their shields adapted to our weapons in real time. Their projectile weapons passed through our defenses like they were not there." "Impossible," declared High General Mordak, the Empire's top military commander. "No species in this galaxy has technology that advanced. Our intelligence networks would have detected them." "Perhaps they are not from this galaxy," suggested Science Minister Valana. "The energy patterns Admiral Kethvar described do not match any known physics in our databases." Emperor Zarthul stopped pacing and turned to face his advisors. His 6 arms moved in patterns that showed extreme displeasure. "I do not care where they came from. I care that they dared to resist the Empire. This insult cannot be allowed to stand." "Your Majesty," Kethvar said carefully, "they attempted to communicate. Perhaps we could try to negotiate." The Emperor's eyes flashed with rage. "Negotiate? The Empire does not negotiate with primitives who fire on our ships. High General Mordak, prepare Battle Fleet Omega. I want these aliens crushed completely." High General Mordak bowed deeply. "It will be done, Your Majesty. 12 heavy cruisers, 30 destroyers, and the dreadnought Void Crusher. The largest fleet we have assembled in 50 years. "Good. And Mordak, make sure there are no survivors. I want every other species in the galaxy to know what happens when someone challenges the Empire." Back in the Kepler 442 sector, Captain Murphy was dealing with his own problems. The USS Defiance had pulled back to the edge of the system, but they were still being watched by the alien fleet. Every few hours, one of the enemy ships would move closer, as if testing their reactions. "Captain," Science Officer Foster called, from her station. "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The aliens are bringing in reinforcements." Murphy walked over to look at her readings. The display showed dozens of new energy signatures appearing at the system's edge. "How many ships?" "Hard to tell exactly, but at least 40. Some of them are much larger than anything we've seen before." Chief Engineer Carter's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we need to talk. Can you come to engineering?" Murphy found Carter working on a new type of torpedo in the ship's weapons lab. "What do you have for me, Chief?" "I've been studying the data from our fight with the aliens. Carter explained. Their shields work differently than ours. They create a single strong barrier. But if you hit them with the right frequency, the whole system collapses. She showed him a modified quantum torpedo on the workbench. I think I can chain react their shield systems. One torpedo could disable multiple ships. How many ships? Murphy asked. Hard to say. Maybe 5 or 6 if they're close together. But Captain, there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications. Carter led him to a computer terminal showing translated alien messages. They're not just bringing in more ships, they're planning to attack human colonies. They think we're some kind of invasion force. Murphy felt his blood turn cold. Do they know where Earth is? Not yet, but they're working on it. They're following our hyperspace trail backward. If we don't stop them here, they'll find our homeworlds within weeks. The weight of responsibility settled on Murphy's shoulders like a heavy blanket. His ship was the only thing standing between an alien war fleet and billions of innocent people on Earth and the colonies. How long until their main fleet arrives? He asked. Based on the energy patterns, maybe 6 hours, Foster replied from the bridge through the intercom. Murphy made his decision. Carter, how many of those special torpedoes can you build in 6 hours? Maybe 20 if I push the fabricators to their limits. Do it. Blake, I need you to study the alien fleet formations. Find their weak points. Murphy activated the ship-wide intercom. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to face impossible odds, but we're not running. Earth is counting on us. The crew of the USS Defiance began preparing for a battle they couldn't possibly win. But Murphy had learned something important during their first encounter with the aliens. Humans had one advantage their enemies didn't expect: the ability to think of new solutions when old ones didn't work. As the alien battle fleet approached through hyperspace, Captain Murphy stood on his bridge and watched the stars. Somewhere, out there, Earth's children were building new lives on distant worlds. They deserved a chance to grow up in peace. The Empire thought they could crush humanity with overwhelming force. They were about to learn that humans fight hardest when they have no choice but to win. The USS Defiance hung in space like a single candle flame against the darkness. But sometimes, one small light is enough to start a fire that burns down an empire. Battlefleet Omega dropped out of hyperspace like a storm of metal and energy. Admiral Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Void Crusher, and smiled at the sight before him. 12 heavy cruisers and 30 destroyers spread out in perfect formation behind his command ship. There, he pointed at the small dot on the main screen. One pathetic little ship thinks it can challenge the might of the Empire. His tactical officer, Commander Zeklos, studied the sensor readings. Sir, that's the vessel that defeated Admiral Kethavar's squadron. Perhaps we should be more careful. Veltar's expression turned cold. Careful? We have 43 ships, against 1. Even if their technology is superior, numbers will crush them. On the USS Defiance, Captain Murphy watched the alien fleet appear with a mixture of fear and determination. The enemy ships stretched across space like a metal wall, each one bristling with weapons. My God, whispered Tactical Officer Ryan Blake. There are so many of them. Sensor count confirms 43 vessels, reported Science Officer Amanda Foster. The largest ship is over 2 kilometers long. I'm reading massive energy signatures from their weapons systems. Murphy activated the ship-wide intercom. All hands, battle stations. This is what we trained for. The human crew moved with practiced efficiency despite their fear. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter had worked through the night, building 24 modified quantum torpedoes. Each one was designed to chain react through multiple enemy ships if they stayed in close formation. Carter to bridge, came her voice over the intercom. All weapons are ready, the new torpedoes are loaded and standing by. Blake, what's their formation? Murphy asked. Standard Zephyrian attack pattern, Blake replied, studying his tactical display. 3 waves, heavy ships in the center, destroyers on the flanks. They're advancing slowly, probably trying to intimidate us. Murphy had spent hours studying the asteroid field at the edge of the system. His crew had placed sensor drones and automated mines throughout the rocky debris over the past few days. It wasn't much, but it might give them an edge. All stop. Murphy ordered. Let them come to us. Admiral Veltar watched the human ship halt its movement with confusion. Why are they not running? Do they think one ship can fight our entire fleet? Perhaps. It's a trap, suggested Commander Zeklos. What trap could one ship possibly set? Veltar laughed. Begin the attack. All ships open fire at maximum range. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked across space toward the USS Defiance. The barrage was so intense it lit up the darkness like a second sun. Murphy gripped his command chair as the ship shook under the massive assault. Shields holding, Carter reported. The adaptive systems are working overtime, but we can take it. Return fire, Murphy ordered. Target their command ships first. The Defiance launched its first spread of modified quantum torpedoes. Blake had carefully aimed them at the center of the enemy formation, where the heavy cruisers were clustered together. The first torpedo struck a Zephyrian cruiser and exploded with tremendous force. But instead of stopping there, the energy cascade jumped to the next ship, then the next. Within seconds, 5 enemy vessels were caught in the chain reaction. Direct hit, Blake shouted. 5 cruisers destroyed or disabled. Admiral Veltar stared at his tactical display in shock. 5 of his most powerful ships had been destroyed by a single weapon. How is that possible? Sir, their torpedo somehow linked our shield systems together, reported his science officer. When one ship's defenses failed, it caused a cascade failure in the others. Impossible, no weapon works that way. Sir, we're receiving communications from several of our captains. They're requesting permission to break formation. Veltar's face twisted with rage. Denied. All ships maintain formation and continue the attack. But the damage was done. Word of the impossible weapon spread through the Zephyrian fleet. Some captains began to question whether this battle could be won. Captain Murphy saw the confusion in the enemy ranks and pressed his advantage. Foster, are you picking up their communications? Yes, sir. There's definitely disagreement among their commanders. Some want to retreat. Blake, target their communication ships. If we can disrupt their command structure, they might break apart on their own. The USS Defiance began hit-and-run attacks, using the asteroid field for cover. Each time the alien ships tried to surround them, the human vessel would disappear into the rocky debris and emerge somewhere else to strike again. Lieutenant Commander Sam Watson had been working on something special. Captain, I've been analyzing their communications. I think I can broadcast a message that will reach their entire fleet. What kind of message? Something that might make them think twice about following their orders. Murphy nodded. Do it. Watson activated the ship's most powerful transmitter and sent a message across all Zephyrian frequencies. The universal translator had improved greatly during the battle, and the words came through clearly to every alien ship. This is Captain Murphy of Earth. We did not come here to fight. We came in peace, seeking friendship. Your leaders chose war. But you don't have to die for their pride. We have families too. We have children who want to grow up in a peaceful galaxy. The message hit the Zephyrian fleet like a shockwave. Many of the alien crews had never heard an enemy speak of peace during battle. Some began to wonder why they were really fighting. Commander Thalvin of the cruiser Star Piercer turned to his crew. Did you hear that? They say they came in peace. But Admiral Veltar says they attacked first, replied his weapons officer. Did they? Or did we attack them because they were different? Similar conversations were happening throughout the Zephyrian fleet. The Empire had taught them that all aliens were enemies, but this human captain spoke of peace and family. It made some of them think about their own families back home. Admiral Veltar realized he was losing control of his fleet. All ships, ignore the alien propaganda. Concentrate fire on their engines. I want them disabled, not destroyed. But it was too late. Several Zephyrian captains had already powered down their weapons. Others were moving away from the main formation, no longer willing to follow orders blindly. The USS Defiance continued its desperate fight, but the odds were still overwhelming. Even with a quarter of the enemy fleet refusing to fight, Murphy's ship was taking heavy damage. Shields down to 30%, Carter reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. I don't know how much more we can take. Murphy looked at his crew, all of them working beyond their limits to keep the ship fighting. They had done something impossible, turning part of an enemy fleet against itself. But it might not be enough. Admiral Veltar made his final decision. If they won't surrender, we'll ram them. All remaining ships, prepare for collision course. The massive dreadnought Void Crusher turned toward the USS Defiance, its engines glowing with full power. Behind it, the loyal ships of the Zephyrian fleet followed their admiral's lead. Captain Murphy watched the alien dreadnought approaching and knew his ship couldn't outrun it. But he had one last card to play, something Chief Carter had discovered during her analysis of alien technology. Carter, remember what you said about their power systems having a weak point? Yes, sir. But we'd have to get close enough to target their main reactor. That ship is too heavily armored. Murphy smiled grimly. Then we go through the armor. Blake, target all remaining torpedoes at their forward section. Carter, prepare to overload our quantum drive. Sir, that will destroy us too, Carter warned. Maybe, but it might also save Earth. The final phase of the impossible battle was about to begin. The massive dreadnought Void Crusher bore down on the USS Defiance like a metal mountain. Admiral Veltar stood on his bridge, watching the distance close between the two ships. In less than 2 minutes, his flagship would crush the human vessel and end this embarrassing battle. Sir, several more ships are breaking formation, reported Commander Zeklos. Captain Morval of the Night Strike is refusing to follow. Cowards, Veltar spat. After we destroy this ship, I'll deal with them, personally. On the Defiance, Captain Murphy counted down the seconds until impact. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter was in the engine room, her hands flying over the quantum drive controls. She had never tried anything like this before, but the theory was sound. Carter to bridge. Her voice crackled over the intercom. I'm ready, but Captain, this is really going to hurt. Understood. Blake, fire all remaining torpedoes. Target their forward armor. 24 quantum torpedoes launched from the USS Defiance in a concentrated spread. The weapons struck the dreadnought's thick armor and exploded in sequence. Each blast weakening the metal for the next impact. Science Officer Amanda Foster watched her instruments with growing excitement. Captain, I'm reading massive structural damage to their forward section, but it's not enough to penetrate. Murphy made his choice. Carter, overload the drive. All hands, brace for impact. The quantum drive began to build energy far beyond its safe limits. Warning alarms filled the ship as the engine core started to become unstable. But Foster, who had been studying alien technology for months, suddenly had an idea. Wait, she called out. Captain, I know how to stop them without destroying ourselves. Talk fast, Foster. Their ship is so big it creates resonance patterns in its own hull. If we can match the right frequency with our communications array, we can cause structural failure. Blake looked up from his weapons console. You want to use sound as a weapon? Not sound exactly, but the same principle. Their metal has a natural vibration frequency. Hit it right, and the whole ship will shake itself apart. Murphy had seconds to decide. Do it. Carter, stand by on the drive overload in case this doesn't work. Foster's fingers flew over her console, converting the ship's powerful communication system into a focused beam weapon. She targeted the frequencies she had detected in the alien hull and fired. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The massive dreadnought began to shake violently as the resonance beam hit its structure. Metal groaned and twisted as the vibrations spread throughout the ship. Admiral Veltar was thrown to the floor as his flagship bucked like a wild animal. What's happening? He shouted over the noise of bending metal. Hull breach on Deck 12, came a report. Multiple system failures throughout the ship. The Void Crusher's engines flickered and died as power systems overloaded. The great ship, pride of the Zephyrian fleet, was tearing itself apart from the inside. Abandon ship, Veltar ordered as a final act of desperation. But even as his crew ran for the escape pods, he couldn't believe what had happened. One small alien ship had destroyed the most powerful vessel in the Empire's fleet. Captain Murphy watched the alien dreadnought break apart and felt no joy in the victory. Too many beings had died in this unnecessary battle. Foster, scan for survivors. We'll pick up escape pods. Sir, several Zephyrian ships are approaching, reported Blake, but they're not in attack formation. On the main screen, Murphy could see alien vessels moving slowly toward the wreckage. Their weapons were powered down, and they were transmitting surrender signals. Commander Thalvin of the cruiser Starpiercer was the first to make contact. His message came through clearly thanks to the improved translation systems. Human ship, this is Commander Thalvin. We wish to end this fighting. Admiral Veltar is dead and we no longer follow his orders. Murphy felt relief wash over him. This is Captain Murphy. We accept your surrender and offer assistance to survivors. Over the next few hours, a strange scene played out in the Kepler 442 system. Human and Zephyrian crew members worked together to rescue survivors from the destroyed ships. Murphy found himself talking with alien commanders who expressed regret about the battle. We were told humans were monsters, Commander Thalvin explained as they stood in the Defiance's medical bay. But you save our people even after we tried to kill you. War makes monsters of everyone, Murphy replied. But it doesn't have to. Stay that way. The real surprise came when Lieutenant Commander Sam Watson picked up long-range communications from across the Zephyrian Empire. The news of the battle was spreading and the results were shocking. Captain, you need to hear this, Watson called from his station. There are reports of uprisings throughout the Empire. Other species are rebelling against Zephyrian rule. Murphy read the translated messages with amazement. On dozens of worlds, alien species that had been conquered by the Empire were rising up against their oppressors. The story of how one human ship had defeated an entire fleet was inspiring revolutions across the galaxy. Sir, Foster announced, I'm receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Patricia Hayes appeared on the main screen, her expression showing both pride and concern. Captain Murphy, congratulations on your victory. But I'm afraid your mission isn't over. The President wants you to serve as Earth's first ambassador to the alien species in your region. Murphy looked around his damaged bridge at his exhausted crew. They had come looking for peaceful contact and found themselves in the middle of a galactic revolution. Understood, Admiral. We'll do our best. In the weeks that followed, the USS Defiance became the center of a growing alliance of free species. Former subjects of the Zephyrian Empire came to the human ship seeking help and guidance. Murphy found himself negotiating treaties and organizing resistance movements. Commander Thalvin brought news that Admiral Kethvar, the moderate Zephyrian, from the first encounter, was leading a rebellion within the Empire itself. Many Zephyrians were tired of endless conquest and wanted peace. The Empire is crumbling, Thalvin reported during one of their regular meetings. Emperor Zarthal has lost control of half his territory. Your victory here showed everyone that the Empire could be defeated. Chief Engineer Carter, meanwhile, was sharing human technology with their new allies. The adaptive shield systems and quantum torpedoes were being studied by dozens of species, all eager to defend themselves against remaining Imperial forces. Captain, Science Officer Foster said one evening as they watched the sunset on a liberated, alien world, do you think we did the right thing? This war is spreading across the entire galaxy. Murphy considered the question carefully. We didn't start this war, Foster. We just showed everyone else that bullies can be stopped. The final message came from Earth several months later. Admiral Hayes appeared on screen with news that would change everything. Captain, the first colony ships are ready to launch. Thanks. To your work, we have dozens of species willing to share their worlds with human settlers. You've opened the galaxy for us. Murphy smiled as he looked out at the stars. The Empire had thought their sector was secure, but one human warship had changed the course of galactic history. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they had proven that even the smallest light could drive away the darkness. The USS Defiance continued its patrol of what was now called the Free Sector, protecting the growing alliance of species that had chosen friendship over fear. And somewhere in the distance, more human ships were coming to join them among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same.